Hello and welcome back to Epic Generation in the Neighborhood, where we talk about what's happening in our communities and we inspire youth and kids to take positive action. Today, you are in for a treat because joining me, I have two of my amazing co-hosts who are also part of the Epic Generation family. Let's give it up for Nicole Huff and Noah Aquino. Yay! Hi, guys.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Hopefully, everyone's doing well. I'm so happy to be here. Yes, my name is Noah Aquino. If I look familiar to you, that is because I am the TV host of Epic Generation on Filipino TV. So it's great to be here on this virtual platform. Thank you so much for having me. And I currently work as the youth minister and confirmation coordinator at my local parish here in Ajax. And I just wrapped up my first year of journalism at Seneca College. So it's been a wild year, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank
Hi.
you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm Nicole Huff, and I am also in my fourth year of university for Ryerson Media Production. And I am an actress on Netflix and a singer, songwriter, dancer. And I recently started working for Epic Generation, and I'm really excited about it. And I think that this is going to be a fun conversation with Jody and Robin because it's something that I'm passionate about, and it's something that I want to learn more about, and I think it's an important conversation to have. So I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You
Also,
actually
don't mind my face. I just had a facial, so it's a little red.
no, you're glowing already. You can see it. That's amazing. But you actually touched on something that we are going to have an exciting conversation today with our special guest. They are from TAMI. The organization is called Talking About Mental Illness. These two beautiful ladies are making a difference in our lives, and we're very glad that both of you could join us today. So please welcome Jody and Robin. Hey guys, how are you?
Yeah, so I'm Jody. I'm a registered social worker, and I am one of the co-chairs of the TAMI Coalition. And we started, not to date us, but we started probably before many of you were even born in 2002. And we consist of multiple organizations and agencies within Durham region. There are 3 school boards, 2 local hospitals, public health, CMHA, and there's several other agencies that are involved. And our goal is to reduce the stigma associated with mental illness, to increase knowledge around mental health and mental illness, and to start initiating change. And part of the way we do this is we have 2 magical components, I think, to our program, and one being our speakers, which is going to be Robin, and the other is how we plant a seed with students, and they do the amazing work of pushing it even more forward. So we are so excited to be a part of this with you.
Very nice. Thank you, Jody. And Robin?
Yeah, so my name is Robin. I've been a TAMI speaker for, I don't know, Jody, I think it's been about 8 years we were just discussing. So it's been a while. I'm a little bit of a TAMI baby. They're my second family. And I get the privilege of encouraging youth. I had the opportunity to go into schools and present at different conferences like our summit at Ontario Shores, where I get to share my story. I get to share about that journey of what it was like as a teen and even as a young adult living with the mental illness. So I love being a TAMI speaker, and yeah, I'm really excited to just encourage people tonight, and also, yeah, just have some some real talk.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. And oh my gosh, I love the transitions here because everything you're talking about, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to say that next. That's awesome. We're actually going to be able to hear Robin's story a little later. If you're watching, join our conversation, write some comments, say hello, ask questions. We are here for you. So as Robin said, we are celebrating the Canadian Mental Health Week's Get Real with Your Emotions. So that's their theme for this month. And in this pandemic, our social connection to one another has been challenged in many ways. So that is why we have Jody and Robin today to engage in healthy discussion to see how we can help one another. So I do have my wonderful co-host here, Nicole and Noah. What do you guys think about this theme? What do you think about Get Real with Your Emotions?
I honestly think it's such a great theme because it not only applies to many different aspects of life, like I work with kids and I teach kids acting and I teach kids French, but and you have to be real with your emotions. But I think that it applies to life because oftentimes we're trying to cover up and hide our emotions, but it doesn't really benefit us. I think it benefits us and everyone around us when you are real and honest, and I think it's a really awesome theme.
I cannot agree more with that, Nicole. Growing up, I was taught, and not to bottle up your emotions. It's okay to share your feelings with other people, whether it be your parents, your siblings, your best friends. Don't keep it within you, and it's okay to feel what you are feeling. Those emotions are valid, and it's so important to remember that it's okay to feel what you're feeling. And this whole year has been a wild ride for everyone. I think our mental health has taken an unfortunate toll, but we are keeping each other in check, thankfully. Now, Robin and Joni, you represent just a small part of the TAMI coalition. And since the beginning of this pandemic, how has TAMI adapted to the new changes, and what kind of programs are you offering right now for the youth?
Well, right now, you're right. We usually go into schools and we invite people into Ontario shores to do summits. And we have reasons for doing that to sort of reduce stigma associated with hospitals and mental illness help, right? And so how do we do that when we have all these pandemic restrictions? Well, we started doing it online. We got some feedback from teachers and students that they still wanted to be able to do this. So just recently, we've been able to get our speakers to share some of their stories on video. And we have the program now put on video so that we can still facilitate it with schools and that they can still do it. It's a little bit more difficult right now with the further restrictions of kids being at home, but teachers are still able to access it, and they can just go on our website and get in touch with us, so we can certainly help them out. It's a week-long program.
Nice.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you. And Robin.
So, Robin, so you're a speaker for the TAMI Coalition. How did you get involved, and tell us a little bit about your story?
Well, yeah, so my story and how I got involved with the TAMI Durham Coalition is quite unique. I'll start from the ending of my story because I'll answer your question on how I got involved. And the answer is I attended one of their summits at Ontario Shores as a teenager. And I heard one of their speakers talk about their story of living with depression and anxiety. And I remember my heart was just racing the entire time because finally I was listening and seeing somebody right in front of me that I could relate with. And there was something in that moment that I wanted, and that was hope. And, the speaker at that time really shared that. So I got connected with her, and she got me connected with some resources, and then boom, bang, a couple years later, I'm a TAMI baby. I still am. Nobody's taking my place, but yeah, I've been with TAMI. And but yeah, a little bit about my story. I'm actually from Durham, raised in Ajax. Not sure if anybody that's watching is from Ajax. Let us know in the chat. Love Ajax. And honestly, I was quite a funny kid growing up. I was really adventurous, humorous, creative. I thought that I was going to be famous because I discovered that soap and water could clean marks off your wall. Like that's that I was a daredevil. I used to skateboard. I would jump off curbs on my bike and stuff. But yeah, honestly, that was just me as a kid. And with all of those amazing personality traits, you would have thought I'd been excelling in school and being this amazing leader in the classroom, but I wasn't like that at all. I was actually the complete opposite. I hated school because I always felt like I didn't belong. And I also felt like I was a target. Being labeled by my educators as a troublemaker made me feel like the majority of my teachers didn't want me in their class and my peers as well. So, I got that label. chip on the shoulder. Who's heard it before? And this chip on my shoulder or attitude, unfortunately, was causing me to be suspended nearly every 2 weeks. And eventually I did get kicked out of my classroom. So you know what? I had this bad label. So I started to believe it, that I was bad. And that's exactly how, everyone thought about me. And I started to really start to think negative about myself. And at that time, anxiety started to become present in my life because, as we learn about mental health now, mental illnesses, is that it shows up differently in youth than adults. So as a youth, it was a lot of that anger, a lot of that not paying attention and listening to the different class rules. But you know what? On the bright side, when I was in grade 6, I had a wonderful teacher, and she accepted me. And you know what? I didn't get suspended once. I didn't even go to the office once. You know what? I thought she saw some of my skills, and I began to trust her. But I also began to believe in myself. And you know what? My definition of acceptance may be different than yours. However, at that age, I don't know, I must have been like 11 or 12. I said, you know what? Acceptance is taking the time out to listen and respecting my personal space. And that teacher did an amazing job at it. But you know what? For some reason, I still felt the same way inside. I was still anxious. I was still angry. I was still sad. I just knew I wasn't happy. And you know what? I probably looked at times at the outside. Remember, I had the chip on my shoulder. But I was really sad inside. And I didn't know who I could talk to at the time. It's not like right now how we're talking about mental health so openly. It wasn't like that back in the day. But you know what? Things weren't too great at home either. I also felt like a reject there too. And my behavior was causing a strain on my family. I just couldn't understand why my parents were just always arguing and just never seemed happy together. I thought I was the reason why my mom would sometimes stop talking to me for days and even weeks. I thought I was the reason why my dad preferred to spend time with alcohol rather than me. But you know what? Nobody ever told me it wasn't my fault. Instead, I was constantly told, especially when I got in trouble, how much of a bad kid I was and how disappointed everyone was in me. It was like no matter where I went, I was just constantly labeled as a problem. So I started to believe it, that I was this problem and I need to get rid of this problem. So, labels hurt. And it was around this time in my life that a lot of those suicidal thoughts started to come in. So that amazing teacher that I had, I confided some of that with her. And like I said, suicide, this wasn't a new thought in my head. It was a recurring one. And I actually thought it could end all of my misery. And when I told my teacher, I was so scared. I was so scared because I knew she was going to tell my mom and it was not going to be good. But, I had hope that maybe things would be different. And you know what? Unfortunately, in my case, and as we'll probably talk about later when it comes to different cultures and, coming from a family of immigrants, it wasn't that. It was a complete opposite. And that's because there was that lack of awareness and education on my family's part. And, at the age of 11, another huge cultural shift, we moved to Whitby. So I went from wearing Air Force to fat bars. Okay, I don't know who knows about fat bars, but you know what? It really sucked. It sucked to leave all of my friends behind. And, but at the same time, I was kind of happy to do this move because I was like, yes, I can start fresh. Nobody really knows me. I'm not this bad kid anymore. But actually, my graduating year was hell. A lot of my friends that I made the previous year moved on. And a lot of those troubles that I had in Ajax started to resurface. So I tried to find a positive outlet. And at that time, it was basketball. I put in all of my effort for this basketball tryout. And, the coach told me I didn't make it because of my behavior recently. And that day, I just cried. I walked home and I cried the majority of the way. And that coach, he had no idea that at that time he stole my last thread of hope. And when I lost hope, I basically stopped trying. So by the time I entered into high school, I was so depressed. I didn't care about anything. I didn't go to school. I didn't participate in class. I isolated myself in my room. I didn't go out with my friends. I honestly felt lost in this new house and community that we just moved into. I found it hard to keep up with my basic hygiene. So brushing teeth and taking showers, these are a lot of the things that we see when one is going through depression. I prefer to have basic hi and bye conversations on MSN. Now it might be Snapchat, Instagram, and whatnot. Picking up the phone and talking with my friends. I also began to self-harm. And you know what? My behavior, my attitude never changed at school because I was still sad. And one thing I'm happy to say, though, is I had some amazing teachers in high school who always wanted to give me a second chance. But as I mentioned, I was an actress in high school. Nobody ever guessed that I was anxious or depressed because I was a good actor on the days that I attended.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I'd work from 8 to 3, strolling around the halls with a fake smile and a fake personality, which helped me until I got home and I just stayed in my bedroom for the majority of the day. If I was being honest with myself, I honestly thought that if I told anyone, the same old stuff would happen again. That rejection, that lack of belonging, and I would have to deal with an angry family. I wasn't doing well. I was bombing on tests. I just couldn't do anything that involved pressure or being judged. I couldn't concentrate. So I just wouldn't do anything. My teacher just thought, that's Robin. But in reality, that was me with a mental illness called depression. But you see, I think that's the problem. And let's get real. That's the problem. Sometimes we think we know people, and everyone thought they knew me. No one expected me to be depressed and anxious. No one expected me to be harming myself. And even if they did, my friends included, they just didn't know how to be with someone who was suffering. They didn't feel comfortable having this conversation. I didn't fit the stereotype. I'm Black, not white. I was far from being seen, emo, goth. I don't know what it's called these days. I had friends, I wasn't a loner. But everyone was so blinded by these stereotypes that it just wasn't considered. And now we're kind of at the end, and I don't want to take up too much time, but this is where I end up at TAMI. I get this miserable team, lacking hope, not understanding what I'm going through, not knowing if anybody actually understands what I'm going through. And a teacher, again, our teachers are important, brought me to a TAMI summit on Ontario Shores. And like I said, I heard that speaker share her story, and she had something that I wanted in that moment, and that was hope. And honestly, I never knew that conference was going to change my life. Never knew. I never knew I would be where I am right now in a million years, but I'm here and I'm happy. And I just want to let, a young person, adult, a young adult, whoever you are, I want to let you know that don't let your community, culture, your peers, or your mental health, or any disability negatively define who you're destined to be. Seeking help was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. It has and is still helping me put together a bunch of puzzle pieces to form something beautiful, which is me, Robin.
Wow.
A beautiful human being.
That was such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing with us. I think it's amazing that you can be so honest and share that with people, because we can learn from it. And I really thought it was beautiful when you spoke about acceptance as well.
And Robin, when you either spoke with your grade 6 teacher or when you went and attended the TAMI summit, how did it feel when your emotions were validated?
It felt good. It felt like, remember how I was saying I was that little girl who just felt like I was a troublemaker and that nobody wanted to listen to me and that was bad, and here somebody was saying, no, you're not. That validation, it felt good. It provided a lot of answers. It, touched on a lot of those hurt places in my heart. So I think it's important, even conversations like this is validating, and it felt good. I don't have a word to describe it. All I know is that it felt good to be heard and understood.
And having that experience, I don't know how much more you can stress how important it is to share your emotions with at least one person.
Yeah.
And have that one other person to hear what you are thinking and saying, right, Raisa?
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Noah. And I do actually have a question for you, because we are talking about how these teachers made an impact in your life. So what were the qualities in these teachers that made you trust them? Why were they so different from everybody else?
Well, it goes back to acceptance. I think we have it there on the screen.
Yeah, that's awesome.
These
Oh, yeah.
teachers, they took the time out to listen and respect my personal space. That to me is life-changing. If you're able to make your classroom into a space that's accepting, a place where your students feel heard and understood and respected, it makes a difference. And, I was coming from, a bit of a challenging home where I didn't always feel safe. I didn't always feel understood. So school to me was important. And when my teachers were able to create that environment, it made me feel safe, and it made me want to talk about my emotions. It made me want to get real. I love the hashtag. Using it.
Yeah, the hashtag, I think, is more powerful than you'd think, right?
Oh, thank you. Yes, sorry. So thank you so much, Robin, for sharing that story. One thing we do, and for Jody and Robin, and so everybody's kind of new here in terms of like being on the stream. So I guess we actually do have a portion of our snack and chat, what we do with the juniors and the seniors. So we get to do it as well. We kind of like get to take a break. So we take a sip of our water. It is the snack and chat time, or we take a sip of our water, take a little bit of our snack. And then we'll be looking through some of our comments. But Jody and Robin, you also have a little bit of an activity for us. Is that right?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Okay. So let's go through some of our comments, and obviously drink your water like now. And, we'll see it. So thank you guys so much to our audience. We have Hi, talking about mental health is so important. Great to see some familiar faces.
Recognize these people.
I love it. We have Jaffray, lots of hearts. Hello. Latifa says hi. Hello. Great to see
Hello.
Tammy. You guys have been hiding. He's like here alive. Where have you been? The summit is incredible. Yes. Noah. Oh my gosh. Noah's got a big fan here. Jeez. Most dedicated inspirer.
And definitely, I saw a teacher comment there, and I was like, they are what makes our summit even more special, because they often bring examples of what they're doing at their schools, which inspire other schools.
Very nice.
Miss
So
Grant is a great example of that.
Yeah, she's got some fans here too. You had great helping health is the key. Everyone has mental health. Every single Canadian is affected by mental health. And I think we'll touch on that a little bit later as well in terms of mental health, mental illness. Says, owning your mental health is a sign of strength. We all need to be healed within, and totally no shame at all. And then for Robin, your story is completely felt. And we're going to get into that topic a little bit more. Honored. Oh my gosh. Look at all of these beautiful comments. Thank you so much.
Yeah, keep it coming. Keep it coming. We love the comments and reactions.
Exactly.
Well, where's my Ajax folk?
Oh, here. Oh, you want? Sorry.
Come on, I know there's some. Hey, Durham. There we go.
Yes. Let's go, Ajax.
Oh, yeah,
Scarborough. Welcome from Scarborough.
Awesome. Okay, so what is this fancy activity you have for us?
Yeah, Jody.
Well, I know we're zooming through time already. So do you want us to start with the ice activity, because that one was Robin's, or do you want us to go into one of the ones that have the audience participation?
Our audience is going strong. So do you guys like that idea? You want to, hey, audience, would you like to join us in this fancy activity? Let's do it. Yes, go ahead. Let's do it.
All right. Jody, do you want to do the breathing first?
Well, I was going to start with asking them about the explaining mental health and physical health and comparing them so that people can jump in. So often part of our program, when we go into the schools, we do an activity that we try to compare and help people understand and make it just as okay to talk about mental health as it is physical health. So we often use a common sickness or illness that some people might experience. So we usually talk about an earache. And then we're going to compare it to our sort of made up word of a psychache. So when you have an earache, what kind of symptoms do you get when you get an earache?
Oh, good question. Put it in the chat, folks, because I'm blanking here.
Something uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I get a migraine and my jaw hurts. So I don't know. Does that count?
Trouble hearing.
How about irritable? That's a good one.
Pain.
Yeah.
How about are you usually how's your social life change when you have an earache?
It's basically shut down. I am not talking to anyone because I'm sick. Don't talk to me. Yeah.
And how about sleeping or eating?
Uncomfortable when you're eating because I feel like the jaw pain affects that.
And when you're sleeping, it's just kind of like you can't go to sleep because you're just so irritated and annoyed with everything that's happening.
Right? So sometimes it's like you can't sleep or all you want to do is sleep. And so where would you go for help if you had an earache?
The doctor.
The doctor, yeah.
The doctor. Google. Who knows?
I'm not sure that's always a good one.
Yes. Don't go to Google when you feel something up.
Yeah.
I would
go to mom, to be honest.
Mom, exactly.
Yeah.
Family. Yeah. And how long? Oh, at the hospital, right?
ENT, okay.
Yeah, specialist.
Yeah.
My mom.
Your mom, yes.
Great answers. And how long would you wait to get help?
You wouldn't wait. I feel like I would go right away.
For me, I would give it a little bit. Yeah.
Right?
Just to see if it will go away on its own.
Yeah, usually we get answers somewhere from like, go right away if it's really painful, or maybe see if it'll go away on its own. And some people say never. And then we often talk about, well, what would happen if you never got help? Okay, so let's sort of shift that little bit of thinking. And what if it was a mental health problem or a mental illness? What kind of symptoms do you think go along with having a psychache, like a mental illness or a mental health problem?
I want to say lack of focus.
Similar.
Yeah,
I feel like my answer is a little bit different. I feel like it's not treated like mental illness should be treated like what it is. And it's sometimes people, are being like, oh no, if it's a health issue, you should go to the doctor. That's more important, but they're equally as important.
Yeah, absolutely. What other symptoms do we have? Like, and I'm kind of letting this play out for a second because this is often a little bit of the response, although it's definitely gotten better in the last few years. So I'm seeing
unmotivated,
sadness. Social life, how does that change?
It really depends.
Yeah, it's sometimes difficult to be social, and because something that's on your mind and you're feeling it throughout your body too, it affects your whole life, I feel like.
Or it could be the opposite, where it's like you feel too isolated and you need people to help you like feel a little bit better. Pain, tired, fatigue, moody, stay home, get out of bed.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we're starting to see some. And so how long would you let me start with this one. Where would you go for help?
Google.
Which is true. People do go to Google. Not always the best, but
see, I think the hesitation in our answers shows that like it can be, you don't know who to go to sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You don't know. because you feel like your emotions, what you were saying, Noah, are not validated by the people around you. So you say, I'm feeling a certain way, and go cheer up, eat a cookie or something. It's not validated by people around you, so.
Mm-hmm. Jafrak even says, my mom. Yes, I
Yeah.
Yes. Family doctor.
Family doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And how long would you wait to tell like your mom or your family doctor or anyone else for that matter? Because we haven't really got into other people you could talk to.
I think it would take, depending if you acknowledge the emotion right away or acknowledge how you're feeling, it may take a couple days, but if you know yourself well, it may be almost immediately being like, hey mom, this is how I'm feeling. I don't know what to do. I need some help. But it may vary depending on your mental health, right?
Yeah, especially like with your awareness. Like if you have no idea what it is, you're just kind of walking around with all these symptoms. Like, I guess it is what it is, and it's like a little bit not normal. You're like, it's just part of life, I guess. So who knows? I wouldn't go for it. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, what's this?
Right. And sometimes we get that answer that it's like, again, right away, because people know themselves and they know when they're starting to feel off. And then there's other extremes where people never get help. And I think we're going to lead into that one a little bit around culture, about the way we feel in society about getting help and how stigma might prevent us from getting some help. And so what's interesting here when we're having this conversation is the actual symptoms can be very similar for physical and mental health, right? But is it easier to talk about one over the other?
I would.
Was it quicker to have answers?
Yeah. As soon as my ankle, I'm wailing. I'm like, my ankle.
Yeah, you stub your toe on the corner of the bed. Like you're done.
Exactly. Sorry, Noah, I cut you off.
No,
Go ahead.
oh my gosh, you're fine. Please. No, basically the same thing. Like when it comes to your physical health, you know something's off about your body. You're like, okay, what do I need to do? Where do I go? But when it comes to your mental state, it's rather the opposite, where it's kind of like, I don't know if I fully trust my friends to share with them. I don't know if I'm comfortable to go to this or that person.
Yeah, there's a stigma. Yeah.
Exactly.
I need to suck it up. This is just a bad day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So usually what our rules we do this because often we find it's easier for people to talk about physical health more than it is mental health. But often we want to shift. Part of our goals is to shift that we should be able to talk about our mental health the same way we talk about our physical health. And that I see one of our comments in there, is when do you know if you need to get help? Because usually we get that question, is when it's starting to really impact the joy in your life, right? So if you stop doing the things that you used to like doing, or even the stuff that you would normally do, it's interfering with your routines, that's when you need to start looking about getting more support. And often we will say the 2-week rule if it sort of persists for that long, but and we invite people to start asking mental health professionals. You have met mental health professionals in your schools, any trusted adult, really, a parent, because hopefully those adults can connect you. Or if you're going to use Google, like Risa said, go to go to the TAMI webpage. There's resources there where you can find support.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely what you're saying. I like how we're actually going to get into those resources, because I think that would be very helpful. It's like, and that's the thing too, even with like your physical health, your mental health also has it's unique to you. So you have your own needs, and it takes that kind of research and all these different types of resources to find which one fits better for you. So we actually have we're going to get into that right now in terms, because we want to reach kids, parents, and families. So Nicole, you had a question on families. Do you want to ask that right now, or should we do it later?
I think that was Noah. That wasn't. Was that?
No, that's okay. So Pamela actually put in this, and this is what we're going to talk about right now. During the pandemic, I've heard a lot of kids saying that they don't want to further burden their parents. So Jody and Robin, in your opinion, how do cultural traditions affect the way teens view their mental health or mental illnesses? And can you actually explain the difference between the two?
Absolutely.
Who wants to jump in there?
Well, I think we're both pretty. Do you want to start, Robin, or you want to?
Yeah, we could both tackle this one.
Okay.
I'll start a little bit about the cultural piece, and that answer is going to be unique because each family is unique, and I can speak on my own experience that in an odd way, the pandemic has kind of highlighted and placed the elephant in the room, like just made it even more known because our mental health has been affected by the pandemic. And Jody will share a bit more about the difference between mental health and mental illness. But through that, we've had the opportunity to really discuss that a bit more. However, again, as I mentioned in my story, coming from a family that are immigrants and that was never spoken about, it can be quite tricky because, we have shows and, our schools telling us, do this, go for a walk, or, be really open about your emotions. And in some households, that doesn't exist. I'm coming from a country where mental illness isn't talked about at all. And if you do talk about it, it's in a negative light. So it all depends. It all depends on the family and all depends on the culture because each one of them are unique. I'm happy to say that at least within my own community, the Black community, we have been doing a great job, getting rid of that stigma within our homes and within our communities. And a lot of that has happened by, having faces like myself, get real and talk with openness and letting our family and our community know that we all have mental health the same way we all have physical health. We all have mental health, but there's a difference between mental health and mental illness, and I'm going to allow Jody to share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So we believe that mental health and mental illness are two sort of separate continuums, meaning that Robin said it best when we were all meeting yesterday around when we're talking about statistics about mental health, it's 1 in 1. Every single person experiences mental health. How we're experiencing our mental health can be, we can be having a good day, or we might be having, a tired day or a sad day, or somewhere in between, right? When we're looking at mental illness, that is when we've been diagnosed by a doctor and we meet a criteria. So some of this stuff has gone on for a longer amount of time, and it meets a criteria that a doctor has said that you have some of these symptoms. So the way we manage it may look the same, but there is a difference. And so when people use that language of someone suffering with a mental illness, not all people with mental illness are suffering. Some people with mental illness are actually living their life and they're managing it and they're doing really, really well. So it's important to know that you can have a mental illness and be doing really, really well, and you can not have a mental illness and be having a really, really bad day.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I think it really does. Again, it varies, right? Depending on how you're feeling on that particular day. And the whole theme for this week is social connection, right? It's social connection. Now, Jody and Robin, you have mentioned that you work in the high schools with teens prior to the pandemic, of course. And now, what are some of the common things you see happen with teens? What are some of the common things? And can you give us some tips on how to manage the emotions after we've already identified them?
Absolutely. I think, I appreciate Pam bringing up in the chat even how kids are feeling burdened, that they don't want to burden anybody else. And I think that's one myth that I'd really love to sort of bust here is that whole idea is that actually, when we talk to people, we're actually creating connection, which I hear so much in Robin's story. It's the connection that often does the healing, and then the next step is some of that other work, right? So being there, listening, talking your truth. When we name it, there's an old saying, name it to tame it. If we're having a feeling and we can label it, our body actually physically starts to calm itself down, and then we can sort of start moving in a direction forward. It doesn't have to be at the opposite end where, oh, it's all positivity, but knowing and understanding that you're okay and normalizing that lots and lots of people right now are struggling.
Wow. No, that's sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Noah.
No, that's sorry. No, I think I love that. Name it and tame it. I am. If it's okay, Jody, with you, I'm gonna keep it in my vocabulary. I'm gonna take it. Put it in my
It's
pocket.
not mine. It's Dan Siegel's. I'll tell you where. I don't know, but I love using that with kids. Name it to tame it, because then we feel like a sense of control over it.
Right.
All right, thank you. And now we are going into our next break. So grab your snacks and your water.
Yay.
And let's have a drink. And when we get into resources, it's also important to know that even if these resources are available, it's up to us to do our due diligence and take control of our lives.
That's so true. I think we have to, like you said, take the directive, put it upon ourselves to find those resources. It makes another connection. Ask your teacher. Ask a Mrs. Garant in your school, right? Yeah, exactly. Shout out to her again. And, one example of this is taking control of our social media usage, right? It's been, I remember back in high school, I was always big on my social media. How many followers do I have? Am I posting often enough? Am I tweeting the right things? Am I posting on Facebook? My Snapchat score, my streaks? I was so in tune, if you will, with my social media that it took an unnecessary, if you will, if I can call it that, an unnecessary mental toll on my health. And now, after high school, I've noticed that it's become of a lesser thing. I've cared less for the amount of followers that I have. I've kept my mental state in check. I'm a big procrastinator, let me tell you. I start to stress, and then when it came to those moments of realization, I knew that, okay, let's take a break, have a mental health break, a study break, right? And that's all because of social media.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point to bring up about, social media when it comes to mental health, because, growing up in high school, especially, I struggled with not necessarily just when I was posting or followers, but, you would scroll on your feed and be comparing yourself to other girls and or other whatever. And it's easy for, men and women to fall into that trap of comparing. It just, social media, I feel like just the way it's wired makes it an easy place to, do that, I feel like. And two things I wanted to actually ask is, what are your thoughts, Robin or Jody can jump in, but what are your thoughts on social media and mental health? And also, can you talk a little bit about the difference between mental health and mental illness?
Yeah, so with social media, it definitely does have an impact on your mental health. Both you and Noah just really did a good job pointing that out. And with myself, one of the things that I do is I take breaks. And I think we need to encourage ourselves to know our limit with social media. It is your space, which means that you should kind of have control over it. So I frequently take breaks from social media. I utilize the block and mute button. Sometimes my finger gets a little bit too heavy on it. But, I said to myself, if I'm constantly on this, I want it to be positive. And if it's not positive, then I'm going to remove you. So it definitely does have an impact, because again, we have that comparison piece. And depending on where you're at on your journey and on your recovery, it can either make you depressed, it can make you anxious. So we really have to be mindful of our social media usage, and also just know that there are ways that we can control it. Like I said, take a break, use that block button, use that mute button.
For sure. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So we actually do have some comments. Thank you to everyone who is commenting and joining our conversation. Even Chef Richie says, turn off the notifications. I think I'm going to tell you that's one of the hardest things I have to do. It's like there's this phenomenon. It's like a phantom something, like where it's like you turn off your notifications, but then you feel like you hear a text and you have to look at your phone.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's all of that. And then Pamela says, love the name it, tame it analogy. So Tasia Scott says, this is long, so I'm just going to quickly read it. Says, many kids in my area don't have the proper resources, and because of COVID, some don't have the Wi-Fi, so they express exhaustion for having online classes. So what she's kind of saying is that not all students have the same access to resources, and I think that's what we're going to get into like right away, just to end it off on a positive note, so we're not Googling everything. But we have some really great institutions that are there to help us out. So Jody or Robin, whoever would like to start, what are our resources? What can we do?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
And,
eye contact across the screen.
If you visit TAMIDurham.ca, we have a beautiful list of resources that youth can access. Whether you are in the Durham region or also in Ontario, because what's really great now is a lot of stuff can be accessed online. We have great websites such as mindyourmind.ca that also provides a lot of different resources for youth. But I know right now within Durham, we have the Youth Services Guide. We have the Youth Center in Ajax. Jody, if you want to expand a little bit.
Sure. We in Durham, there's the Distress Center of Durham Mental Health. So there's a one number crisis line that you can use that will link you to both adult or children's mental health. It's manned. It's sort of something that is jointly done. So when you call one line, you will get the support that you need. There's specific supports through the LGBTQ Pride line. And there's things like using the Be Safe app, or Kids Help Phone also has texting and calling and online support. So I know some people were saying online, and I think we absolutely need to be aware that not everybody has the same access to all the same resources. So there's things like using your community people when you can, using your phone to call a trusted adult, someone who you know has your back, or even if you're not sure if they would, right now I feel like most adults will have your back if there've been someone who's been there for you. It's not a burden at all. We would much rather hear from kids and set you up. If we can't help you, then not here at all.
Amazing. So we have those were a lot of resources. They are actually scrolling on the ticker at the bottom. So take a screenshot. Everybody hold a pose and smile, okay? Take your screenshot in 3, 2, 1.
Stop out stigma.
Yeah, I love it. I was
moving. I don't listen.
You look like you're getting arrested. No. Don't take me.
Please take me out of Ontario.
Amen, Robin. I can't wait.
Get real.
Yes. Like to get back in, so who knows? 50-50. Amazing. Well, did you guys enjoy that discussion? I think we're kind of ending it off here, but that was amazing. Thank you so much to Jody and Robin, and to our co-hosts Nicole and Noah. What do you guys think? I enjoyed that.
I really enjoyed that, and I found that I learned a lot too. So that was great.
Exactly, and like you said, we're all still learning about our mental health, right? So I too did learn a whole lot from this very fruitful discussion. And again, thank you to Jody and Robin for joining us this evening. I am so blessed and lucky to be learning from the two of you. And Raisa, thank you so much for having me on tonight as well.
No problem. Thank you so much. Thank you to our audience who have stuck around here for
Absolutely.
almost an hour. Let's give you guys a hand for doing our activities and commenting. Every time you comment and join our conversation, it only enriches it even further. And we just really enjoy hearing from you. So thank you so much. This has been another amazing episode of Epic Generation in the Neighborhood. And we hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.